Well, hello everybody, it's Joycelina, and we are back trying out the newest snapshot for 1.16, which is the 20W07A. And last episode we looked at the crimson stem and the associated crimson plank and all of the blocks and how they kind of look. Well, not all, but most of the blocks that might possibly kind of maybe look well against the other blocks, and then some that look great, some that don't necessarily. Anyway, you know what that's all about. We're going to do the same now here with the warped stem and the warped plank. So let's get started. Okay, now we're looking at the warped stem, and they are very different. Now, I don't know if I mentioned this. Can you see that the colors change in the veins? I think I might have mentioned that earlier. I've forgotten. So I wanted to see it with just your typical stone. With the diorite, don't do this. Again, diorite definitely doesn't serve us well in most cases. Way too busy against this. The polished diorite, the andesite, and the polished andesite. I mean, it's not going to kill your build. I think it gives a certain level of contrast, and depending on how it's done, I think it can look nice. But I am not loving it. Certainly not as much as the red, the crimson. The crimson looked much better with those blocks. So yes, it can be done, not particularly my favorite. Then we come along with the different planks, wood planks, along with the the warped stem. So we've got your oak log, your spruce, your birch, your jungle, your acacia, and your dark. And again, I'm going to say I'm not loving any of these textures really against this block. I mean, again, the oak is neutral enough. You could, but I'm not going to say that anyone's going to go, wow, those are a great combo. Those really coalesce together to make a beautiful form. I just don't think that's going to be the response. So between the stone and the planks, I'm not buying any of it against this warped stem. Next, I wanted to take a look at the wools that might go against this. Tried for some of the colors that were standard on the other side. So the magenta and the pink definitely are not found anywhere in here. Way too vibrant for those colors. The purple, again, it's an awfully bold color. If you had that as your carpet, I don't think people would be like totally hating on it, but I don't know that they would love it. The same with the light blue. Now, it's not actually as bad. To me, it's not as bad as the purple. So if you're going to choose between the two, I think this light blue is okay because it's lighter and it kind of feels like it may match a little bit more. So that I think is okay. What I do think is a beautiful color and a great color for your carpet would be the cyan. So the cyan wool really picks up all of these colors within these little branches throughout here. The kind of the breaks and that are weaving in color. Boy, I did a lot of stuttering there. I'm sorry. So yeah, all the weaving through here I think looks great with the colors that are in this cyan wool. And the same with the blue wool. I think the blue wool looks just as nice. So if you were to have that along there, it picks up these dark colors. There's not as much of these dark colors, but boy, it really picks that up and looks really beautiful against that. So I think you'd be safe with either one of those if you were using this stem, that these would make great carpets, either to go alongside if you wanted to use that as the wall in your build or however it is, or as flooring. I think it would look great. And finally, I did a black wool just to kind of see. I mean, again, black is supposed to be a neutral, so it wouldn't kill the whole vibe of the look, but I think you'd be better off, or even the gray. They wouldn't kill it, but I think you'd be better off using these accent colors would be much more bold against that. So any flooring you're doing with carpets, I think that would look absolutely great. Next, we wanted to look at the concrete options that are here. Now, with the crimson, it was really hard for any of the concrete to kind of blend with it except for the red. So I wanted to see if it was similar along this side, if those crimson, if the concrete was just way too bright a color coalesce with and go alongside these warped stems. I think the magenta, there's just the color's not there. The same with the pink, the color's not there, so it's not a very nice color scheme. But when you get into the purple, I think it's okay. It's not as, the hue's not as dark as the purple in here, but I think from a distance, I think you're fine. This is the light blue concrete, and actually, it's quite a bit of a, there's a bit of a contrast, but if you're using the light blue concrete and you want to see what kind of things, what kind of blocks can give me some type of contrast and decoration, I think you're okay with that. It's not perfect, but I think it's okay. Now, perfect to me, again, goes back to the cyan. The cyan concrete just looks spectacular against this stem. Definitely could see a lot of building with that. Just absolutely beautiful. I do also like the blue concrete, similar to the wool, where the blue kind of pulls in these darker colors. I think it looks really, really pretty and creates a great contrast. And you could use this as your palette, these three colors together. I think would look really, really beautiful in any type of build. For a more neutral look, looking at the light gray, meh, no, it's way actually too yellow. And it just, yeah, it doesn't go with, it has kind of a brownish yellowish hue that is not found in these colors, and I don't think it goes well. The black, again, is a neutral, so I think you can do fine with the black concrete. There's a starkness to the line, right? So there's going to be a definitive line between the two, whereas when you come against the other two colors, the blue and the cyan, they more blend into and feed into those colors. So whereas this creates a very stark line. If that's what you're going for, I think it's still not bad. It can definitely, I can see this as like a carpet on the floor would be beautiful with a black trim around this. I think would look stunning. So I think there are some uses for these two colors together. And our final area looking at the stems is with the terracotta. And I'm thinking very much along the lines of the terracotta on the crimson. There's just something about the hue that I think goes well with the stems. So this is the magenta terracotta, right? That's what I have here. Yes. And even though it does not match these colors, this purplish here, I think it goes really well together. This is the red, the pink, and it looks too reddish, doesn't it? It's kind of like, no, doesn't quite go. It doesn't have that bluish hue. It's too much of a red. So I'd say no to the pink, but to the purple, I think the purple then really matches very closely these pixels in through here and pulls that in. So I think it looks lovely, and definitely could see this in your building, definitely between the two. As well, the light blue terracotta, I love the way this looks. It's bright and it's crisp, so it doesn't give like a dark feel to it. You can really lighten a room with it, yet still have this beautiful accent. So I think if you want something that's a lighter color, and I really can see this as an interior wall with some type of accent to it, I think that would work really well on the interior of a build. So if for those of you, we never spend much time talking about interiors, but I think this would be really an elegant interior color. And then finally we have the blue terracotta here before we get into our neutrals, and I like that as well. So there's a lot to love between these three colors. You could do a palette in as an interior of your a more modern build that I think would be really striking. So I can really see this being used in a modern contemporary building, especially as interiors. But this is a pretty exterior block as well. And if you were doing something that was more fantasy, where you wanted those darker hues, let's say it was somewhere in a forested area where you wanted things to be darker and not a lot of light, I think this would be a beautiful combination. If you are looking for neutrals between the cyan, the gray, and the black, those are those three. I'm not loving any of the three of them, but I would say that of the three, the gray terracotta most closely aligns with some of these darker colors, darker colored pixels. So I think that would look nice and still have like the boldness of a line. So again, if you're looking at flooring, decorations or wall decorations, I think those two look really nice. Okay, and now we are getting into the warped planks. And so this is a plethora of the gray blocks against the warped planks, which is a really nice color blue, or kind of a turquoise, cyan, somewhere in there, kind of a bluish green color. So I think all of the grays look nice against it. I don't think you can go wrong with this as an accent color for any of your buildings where there's a lot of gray. And so much of Minecraft has these gray blocks in it that this is actually a really nice contrast, because it's hard to find a contrasting block currently in the blocks that have been available. It's been mostly, oh, if you want something of color, you've got to go with the dark prismarine or the purple blocks, or because the sandstone and even the red sandstone doesn't go that great against the gray. So this is a really nice colorful block to go against your gray blocks. And even against the coral blocks, I think it looks wonderful. You don't notice so much the kind of brownish gray of these blocks as you did against the crimson planks. So the warped planks, I just think, look beautiful against any of these gray blocks, and any of them, I expect to see a whole lot of this getting incorporated into people's builds. Love to know, what do you think? Do you think that this is going to be something that people are going to want to build with? Next, I wanted to look at more specifically white-ish blocks against the warped color, and not surprisingly, looks fantastic. This is very similar to when the prismarine came out, that these white, the stark contrast between this color and the white, I think is beautiful. And I would say, and diorite, you now have a new lease on life, because I think a lot of building with the diorite and this warped plank is really nice. I mean, I like it way more than I thought I would, because most people don't like diorite and it's hard to build with, but I think this is absolutely beautiful, and I could see doing some buildings with this. And this is the polished diorite even more so. I can definitely see that these would be blocks that you'd want to build with, and I'm looking forward to seeing much more use of diorite on servers and Minecraft in general. These are the quartz blocks, and again, the yellowishness, is that a word? Yellowishness to these blocks definitely did not stand out as much as they did against the red. So I think they look great. I think, again, very useful. I love the decoration, and I don't think this is too busy to be having up against the plank, especially since you use this block pretty liberally. I could see this, like if you were doing a more modern build, this would be beautiful to have as a wrapping around a window. Or likewise, the pillar would be the same way, either to have as pillars in your build or to have as a wrap around windows. I think would be really, really pretty. This is snow, and wow, the blue in this is a good blend of the bluishness of the warped blocks. I think that looks really nice. So I can definitely see some winter builds in some of the winter biomes where this is going to be utilized, along with the soulfire lanterns and the soulfire torches that are not going to melt your snow. I think snow building and snow forts, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with them with this new block. And then finally, we've got white concrete. Again, you can't go wrong. I mean, it's just a nice contrast between the two. Although I will say that the white concrete powder, I don't love it against this blue as much as I did against the crimson. The crimson, it just looks sparkly and wonderful, and this one, it just looks a little bit busy compared to the blue box. And I don't know why that is, but I feel like I see these pixels more against this than I do. I don't see this being as pixely against this solid. And I didn't feel like I got that effect with the crimson block against the white concrete. Next is the warped planks against the other planks in vanilla. So we've got our oak, we've got our spruce, we've got the birch, the jungle, the acacia, and the dark oak. I gotta say, when you stand back and look, none of them look that bad. Of course, I mean, really, acacia, Okay, I'm going to say this. If you want to talk about contrast, those are actually a perfect contrast of each other. I bet you there are on opposite poles, if you were to look at a color wheel, that those are going to be a nice contrast. So even these, I don't hate. Yeah, I think you can get away with any of them. So this can be an accent color if that's your solid wall. Again, birch. Birch might have a new life, being able to be utilized against the warped plank. So I think, yeah, as opposed to, I didn't like any of them with the crimson. I think they look pretty new. Pretty new. I think they look pretty good against these. So yeah, and then looking against different logs. So I did the acacia, I did the birch log, I did the spruce versus the dark oak. Man, those two logs are hardly different, right? This is a little bit more reddish than this one. And I think I actually like that better as a contrast, but either one I think is fine. Frankly, again, I think this birch log along with this and like the white concrete, I think you might have something there. I know, who uses birch, but I think there might be room to actually utilize a birch block against a plank, and I don't hate it. I think every other plank or block up against the birch just doesn't work, except for maybe white concrete. Except for this, I know. You're thinking I'm crazy, don't you? You think I'm Joycelina. That's just a little weird. I'm not sure, but I think you might be able to make it work. On this section, I wanted to do what I did similarly with the crimson, which is take a look at what would happen with any of the coral blocks. None of them. Look, I even tried the magenta. Oh, good grief. Do not do this. That's my warning. Don't. No. Just no. Pink, this one, the brain coral with the crimson, all day long. No, just don't. Ugly. This is what ugly is. In case you were wondering, in case we needed a definition of what our ugly combination of blocks, this is it right here. Don't do any of this. Next, though, I wanted to take a look at this against what I figured would be the consummate block it was based off of, which is working with prismarine. And yes, no one is surprised by this. Of course, it seems like all of these colors are very much in combination with each other. So somewhere, one of these colors is really found in here so that they blend very well together. So you now have a wood color that you can combine with your prismarine, which means it's less expensive unless you already have your guardian farm, in which case you've got tons of these blocks and it just doesn't matter. But in case you don't, and these are more rare and you have to buy them from the shop owner on your server who's just like raking you over the coals, taking diamond after diamonds just for you to have one or two of these blocks, now you can do a bigger build utilizing them and utilizing this warped plank as your main focus. So, and this is going to be really cheap for you to get. So yes, I think those turn out beautiful and they look wonderful with your sea lantern. Just look perfect. It's like they were designed that way, which frankly, I think they probably were. I also wanted to do the out of the ordinary, what would be the blocks on here that you wouldn't think works with anything. And that would be your sandstone and red sandstone. And I'm telling you, I think there's room. Now, you're not going to use this either one like a whole lot of. One would definitely be the accent of the other, but definitely not hating on this. I think it actually, it's a tan enough color, this sandstone, along with this cyan kind of turquoise color, I think looks really nice. This is enough of a neutral, but it's a bright neutral. It's a yellowish neutral that I think really goes along well with this plank. I could see this very much winding up in some of your desert cities and desert builds. So I am looking forward to seeing what people do with this block in their sandy wastelands. But this surprised me. I thought, now these are two really ugly colors together. But I don't know. I think you could make it work in a way that's really odd. Now, it would take some really, you have to be a skilled builder. If you're a newbie, don't try this at home. I mean, this is for experts only. But if you're an expert at building, I think you can utilize these two. They're far enough away from each other on the color wheel that you would say, yeah, one can go. They definitely contrast with each other, and in a way that can be pleasing depending on how you build it and depending on how you utilize this blue block and the red block, and which one would be the overwhelming color. Maybe they're accents alongside another color, but I think definitely if you've got some more buildings where you want to utilize this red sandstone, you could use this blue. It's enough of it cools off all of the heat and hotness of the red sandstone. And I think that's why it's a great contrast. And I think you could really do something. It's that kind of blue and orange color, right? That you see in design. So I'm looking forward to seeing what people can do with these two color combinations. So the next thing to look at is the concrete along with this. And I was really surprised by this, as I laid all these out. The concrete next to the warped planks, I think most of these colors, very muted, look great. So this is the cyan, the white, the light gray, the regular gray, and the black, I think are all workable. And even the cyan concrete powder, a little, maybe. It gives that kind of sparkly, kind of like we were talking about with the crimson and the white concrete. I think this gets closer to it. I think it does it better if you want something that's kind of shimmery and sparkly. Whoops, sorry, I just hit my microphone. That's so unprofessional, Joycelina. So if you wanted something kind of sparkly and ethereal, I think that this would give you a better chance of giving you a feeling of sparkly without being so busy against this plank than the white did. That's just my personal opinion. Love to hear your thoughts. But overall, I was really surprised at how great these look. That the color is not too saturated and bright against the plank. Unlike, I wasn't as pleased, this is terracotta. I wasn't as pleased with the concrete against the crimson. It just didn't go as well. There was too much of a contrast. It was too starkly different. I think these really, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So definitely get out your sand, get out your gravel. You're going to be wanting to use a lot of it with this block. And then finally is the terracotta. Now, again, in contrast to the crimson, I don't like any of these terracotta blocks against the warp plank. I think they're just too muted, and this is much more bright. So I guess that kind of goes along the lines of the difference between using concrete and using terracotta. So in this case, I think the closest you get is using the cyan, and maybe the black is okay. It's not great, but it's okay. But yeah, I don't love the look of these against this warped color as much as I did the concrete. I think the concrete really captured the level of saturation that it needed. Actually, here's a good way of being able to see the two. So definitely love these much better than the terracotta. So that's what everything looks like. Well, not everything, but some of the primary blocks look like against the warped stem and the warped planks. I hope you enjoyed this episode and the last in combination to really kind of see what blocks will work well in your buildings. And I'm excited to see what kind of buildings people come up with utilizing these new blocks, which I think look fantastic. So with that, I'm going to say I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, please leave it a like, and also you can hit that notification bell and find out when I've uploaded another video, which has happened a little bit more frequently because February has been kind of a lax month and I haven't had so much traveling to do, so I've been able to play a little. Yay! I hope you enjoyed, and I look forward to seeing you next time.